"You're not enough anymore." She said it while tossing her phone on the couch like it was just another Tuesday. Then she asked if I could pick up milk. It was the kind of sentence you don't hear all at once. Not because it wasn't clear, it was too clear, but because something in your brain won't let it land immediately. You think maybe she meant something else, that there's a context you missed, that she didn't say it the way it sounded, but she did. I know now that she did. She was sitting at the edge of the couch, her legs tucked under a throw blanket, scrolling through something I couldn't see. Probably some video of a stranger dancing or a dog pressing buttons to say, "I love you." She didn't look at me when she said it. Just dropped the words out like she was letting go of a grocery list item she'd meant to remember. "You're not enough anymore." Then, just like that, "Can you grab milk when you go out?" I stood there for a second too long, holding a book I hadn't started. I hadn't asked a question, I hadn't complained, I hadn't even spoken. She just decided to offer that up. A sentence with a fuse behind it handed over like a coffee mug. I remember nodding, but I don't remember meaning it. My voice said, "Yeah," but my brain had already walked out of the room. She kept scrolling. I didn't bring up what she said. She didn't either. That was the part that stung the most, maybe. That it didn't register, not even as a crack in the floor. Not even worth patching. She hummed while she made dinner that night, pasta from a jar, garlic bread from the freezer. She asked if I'd seen the neighbor's new fence. I said it looked fine. We sat on the couch and watched something she picked. I don't remember what it was, just that she laughed too hard at it like she was auditioning for comfort. I kept thinking about that sentence. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I suddenly realized she did. She meant it. They're deep-in signs, I suppose. Small ones. Her tone when she spoke to me had shifted slowly over the last year. Fewer full sentences. More eye rolls when I told a story, even when it wasn't meant to impress. Especially then. I'd ask if she wanted to go somewhere for dinner and she'd say, "We don't need to spend money on that." But then post a picture from some brunch with her coworkers, bright drinks, polished smiles, captions with too many exclamation points. It wasn't that she was cruel. Just done. Emotionally clocked out. And I hadn't noticed when it happened, not really. Maybe I'd chosen not to. That night after she fell asleep, half turned away from me, one arm under her head, I sat in the living room in the dark. Just me and the hum of the refrigerator. I thought about the things we used to say to each other. The soft, early morning things. The inside jokes. The quick looks that didn't need words. And I realized it had been years since she'd looked at me like that. Like I was hers. Like I was seen. And yet I had kept showing up. Still doing things the same way, still fixing things around the house, still folding her laundry just how she liked it, still thinking that if I stayed steady enough she'd come back to something she hadn't even glanced at in months. But that night, sitting in that quiet, I understood something for the first time. You can't love someone enough to make them stay. The next morning she kissed my cheek absent-mindedly on her way out. "Text me if you go by the store," she said. Her keys jingled behind her as the door closed. She didn't see me standing in the kitchen holding the same coffee cup I'd used for 20 years. She didn't notice the way my hand was shaking just slightly. Or maybe she did and just didn't care anymore. I looked around at our home. The framed pictures, the polished counters, the anniversary clock we never wound anymore. It all looked the same. But something had cracked. Quietly, permanently. And no one heard it but me. She changed the passcode on her phone. That was the first thing I noticed, not that she told me. I only found out when I went to check the weather while mine was charging and the screen lit up with a 6-digit code instead of 4. She was in the shower. Her voice floated in from the bathroom, singing something I didn't recognize. I didn't say anything. I just set the phone down like it was something hot. After that, things started revealing themselves in small, accidental ways. Her phone never left her hand. Not at dinner. Not during shows, not even in the bathroom anymore. She used to leave it charging on the nightstand overnight. Now it came with her to bed, clutched like a passport in an airport. She started showering at strange times, 10 at night, 2 in the afternoon on weekends. She said it helped her reset. But I'd hear her whispering in the hallway first, pacing slowly, pausing near the front window like she needed to see the street. Once I walked in quietly while she was talking on speakerphone in the laundry room. Her voice dropped the moment she heard me. She laughed loudly and said, "Okay, okay, bye now," in a tone I'd never heard her use with anyone I knew. When she turned, her face was carefully neutral. "Just Jen," she said, brushing past me. "Work gossip." I nodded. I didn't believe her. I think she knew that. But we'd both stepped into a dance neither of us wanted to lead. It wasn't just the secrecy. It was the absence. I'd talk about something from my day and she'd smile and say, "Oh, wow," without asking anything else. If I paused, waiting for a follow-up, she'd blink like she forgot I was speaking. She started coming home later, said they were restructuring things at work, that the team was going out more to build morale. I stopped asking for details. I already knew the answers would be smooth and polished and just vague enough to hold together if I pressed, so I didn't. One night I smelled something on her coat when she hung it by the door. It was cologne, not the kind I used, not the kind I ever had, a sharper scent, clean, heavy, not hers, not mine, not familiar. She saw me looking at the coat and said, "Oh, some guy on the train was practically leaning on me," and laughed like it was ridiculous. But she hadn't taken the train that day. Her car was in the garage. She didn't even blink when she lied. That was when the last of my doubt drained out, not because of the coat, but because of how quickly the story came and how sure she was I wouldn't push back. I sat in the garage that night after she went to bed. Didn't turn on the light. Just sat in the driver's seat with the door open, feet on the concrete, listening to the silence. It was a soft kind of ache, the kind you feel when you stop pretending. I didn't cry. I didn't let it show. I just let the truth settle in like dust on the dashboard. She was gone. Maybe not physically, but wherever she used to be, the version of her that sat beside me on cold bleachers, that fell asleep on my shoulder during movies, she wasn't coming back. And I knew better than to beg for the ghost of someone who had already chosen someone else. I didn't confront her. That would have given her something to push against, something she could twist into a story about how I was controlling or paranoid. No, I stayed quiet, still, calm. I started waking up a little earlier, watching how she moved through the house, noting which lies she repeated, how she softened her voice just slightly when she gave fake details, a trick she probably didn't know she was using. I wasn't trying to catch her anymore. I was preparing to stop being the man she thought would never leave. She still thought I didn't know. That was the part that shifted everything. She moved around me like I was an old coat on a chair, something comfortable, present, and no longer interesting. She smiled when she needed to, asked about my day when she remembered, but behind her eyes the story had already changed, and I let her believe I was still in it. It wasn't just emotional anymore. I started seeing the practical danger. A man showed up at my office one afternoon, not a client, not a delivery. He walked in like he knew the space, even asked my assistant for water, said he was there for Mike's sake. That's me. Only people close to her called me that. I don't go by it professionally. He didn't give a last name. He said he wanted to talk about partnership opportunities, but the way he leaned back in the chair, the way he smirked when I shook his hand, it wasn't business. It was something else, a signal, a message, and I got it. He left a card, no company name. Just a number. And a smell I'd recognized once before, the same sharp cologne I'd smelled on her coat. She was bringing this man into my world now, into places I'd built from scratch. She was making me vulnerable in ways that could cost me everything. I started pulling back. I didn't change passwords right away, that would tip her off, but I began mirroring her, guarded, polite, emotionally hollow. I watched her construct her version of reality with precision. She'd smile too hard in photos with me, post vague quotes about growth and evolving energy. Things you write when you're pre-writing a breakup you want to look noble for. At dinner with friends, she told stories about how supportive I'd been lately, said I was giving her space to grow. I nodded along. They laughed. No one saw the tension in my jaw, the way my hand stayed clenched around my fork. She was staging a performance, building the narrative where she was the one who outgrew me. The one who tried everything. I let her. The more distance I created, the more confident she became. Like my silence proved her version of events. She started leaving overnight bags in the trunk. In case work runs late, she said. I never saw her use them for work. She stopped wearing her wedding ring when she left the house. Said it got in the way of typing. And yet, whenever we were around people who mattered, family, colleagues, anyone whose opinion still carried weight, she slid it back on like it had never moved. I took note of every switch, every lie stitched into routine. I wasn't tracking them to confront her. I was gathering data for the day I'd walk away without needing to explain anything. In the background, I began separating myself. I moved business files to private backups. I created clean versions of shared documents. I stopped syncing calendars. I called the bank, asked quiet questions. She didn't notice. Or maybe she just assumed I was still sleepwalking. She was too focused on controlling the spotlight, building sympathy, dropping phrases like "we've been drifting and he's changed" when friends asked small questions. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was studying. There was a moment, small but sharp, that told me everything I needed to know. She was on the phone, pacing in the kitchen, speaking softly. I heard her say, "No, he's still clueless." Then a pause, then laughter. She didn't realize I was standing down the hallway. She didn't hear the way my breath stopped, or maybe she did and didn't care. I turned and walked back to the garage, sat in the car again. Same place, same seat. And for the first time, I didn't feel broken. I felt done. She didn't notice when I started withdrawing from the accounts. Didn't question why the joint calendar suddenly stopped updating. Didn't see the bank notifications rerouted to a different email. She was too busy crafting a future that didn't include me, at least not the real me. Maybe some version of me that could be blamed when it all unraveled. The inattentive husband, the emotionally distant man, a character she could cast in her story. I let her. It started with the house. We'd bought it together, but I'd paid for most of it. Over the years, I'd added value to it with my own hands, refinished the floors, built the deck, handled the wiring when we remodeled the den. But the deed had her name on it too. I met with a lawyer discreetly. Quiet office, nothing dramatic. I asked questions, collected options. I wasn't angry, just methodical. Cold, the way you have to be when you're the only one looking out for your own life. I pulled my name from a few of our shared assets. Just the ones I knew she wouldn't notice: subscriptions, side accounts, licenses tied to my work. Nothing flashy. She still had the master bedroom. Still played the part of the wife on autopilot, cooking dinners she barely tasted, leaving me sticky notes with half-hearted reminders. But I was already moving out. Not with boxes, with intention. She had a travel bag in the trunk always. And yet, she never once asked where I went when I stayed out late. I started spending nights in a small rental space I secured through a colleague. No furniture, just a mattress on the floor, a folding table, and a lamp. But it was mine. Untouched, unwatched. I'd take quiet calls there, organize my documents, breathe without performing. She thought I was working late. She never asked. One night she came home smiling, holding a bottle of wine she didn't offer to share. Her heels clicked across the kitchen tile, louder than usual. She leaned on the counter and said, "It's nice to have a night to ourselves for once," like we'd been swept up in chaos, like it was life keeping us apart. I smiled, small, hollow. "Yeah," I said, "it is." But in that moment I wasn't with her anymore. I was double-checking the folder I kept in my car, the one with backup drives, legal copies, passwords, and signed instructions in case anything went sideways. I wasn't planning to disappear, just exit, quietly, without a headline. The final week I moved in silence. I closed my private accounts, scheduled cancellation notices, set autoresponders on the email tied to our shared bills. I left a final check on the kitchen counter, enough to cover 2 months of anything she might try to blame me for. I packed only what mattered: a few clothes, tools, heirlooms from my father, a framed photo of my mother she never liked. No notes, no explanation, just absence. The morning I left, she was still asleep. I stood in the doorway and looked at her one last time. Not with love, not even hate, just quiet understanding. "You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." That evening she called. I let it ring. Then a second time, then a text. "Where are you?" Then, "Did you forget dinner with the Maxwells?" Then, "Mike." I didn't answer. 3 days passed before she stopped pretending it was normal. Then the messages changed. "Are you okay? Please talk to me. Can we just talk?" But the performance was over. And I wasn't in her audience anymore. She started posting again, more than usual, long captions, filtered selfies, vague quotes about growth through grief, trusting the universe, and rebuilding. Not a single word about me, but I was in all of it, in the things she didn't say, in the way she tried to frame herself as the one left behind, the strong woman healing. The quiet implication that I'd disappeared for no reason. She wasn't speaking to friends. She was speaking to the story. The first real crack came a week after I left. A friend of mine, someone we'd known for years, sent me a screenshot. It was a group text she'd forgotten to leave. In it she said I had been emotionally erratic. that I had gone silent for months and left her without warning. She said she didn't feel safe, that she might need to take some formal steps. The words were measured, deliberate, legal sounding, but the people reading it knew better because I had receipts. She must have forgotten the messages she'd sent while I was still home, the affectionate emojis, the grab milk on your way back notes, the texts thanking me for doing her laundry. She didn't expect anyone to forward them to me, but they did. One by one, people began peeling away from her circle, unfriending quietly, not responding, letting the silence speak. She posted a photo a few days later, just her hand on a coffee cup. The caption read, "Sometimes people show you who they really are when they think you're not watching." It got 2 likes. Then came the false claim, a message from her sent late at night. "I've been talking to someone. I think I need to take precautions. Then, I've looked into options if this goes legal." That was the moment I knew she wasn't unraveling, she was fighting for control. But I was ready. My attorney already had everything: voice recordings, account logs, even a security cam backup of the day she brought that man to our home while I was away. I didn't send a warning, just a single legal response with attachments. No words, no emotion, just facts. That was the last time she mentioned anything legal. A week passed, then another. And then she did something I didn't expect. She posted a photo of the two of us, from 3 years ago. One of those blurry, half-smile, wine-glass moments from a summer party. She wrote, "Some chapters end without a villain, just silence." Comments were turned off, but silence wasn't mercy. Silence was accountability, the kind you can't twist. She lost more friends after that. One of her old coworkers messaged me privately, said, "She's telling people you vanished, but she's been acting strange for months. We all knew something was off." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She was unraveling herself now, with no one left to catch the thread. I saw her once, weeks later. She didn't see me. She was at the farmer's market, walking alone, phone in hand, glancing around like she expected someone to show up. No ring, no smile, just carefully styled hair and tired eyes. I watched for a moment, then turned away before she could look up. He left her too. The man she'd risked everything for, the one with the sharp cologne and sharper smirk, walked out just weeks after I did. She'd tried to make a future with him, or at least a performance of one. Photos cropped at the edges, vague captions, dinner tables set for two, but none of it lasted. Someone told me he'd been seen with someone else in a different city. Younger, no baggage, no trail of lies to explain. She wasn't betrayed, she was replaced. Her last attempt came in the form of an envelope. No return address, just my name printed neatly. Inside, a single-page letter, handwritten, no apology, no ownership, just lines like, "I thought we were just in different places. I never meant for it to go this far. I didn't expect silence from you, that hurt the most." She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry I didn't give her an ending she could control. I folded the letter once, slid it back into the envelope, left it in a drawer I don't open anymore. 3 nights later, she came to the door. I watched from the upstairs window. She was standing on the porch like it was still hers, holding herself stiff, wrapped in a coat I'd bought her years ago. Same one she once wore out on a work trip that never existed. She knocked, waited, then knocked again. Lighter this time. Her phone lit up in her hand. I didn't answer, not the door, not the texts. She stayed there for almost 15 minutes. Hands in her pockets, pacing slightly, looking back at her car. I could hear the gravel shift under her boots with every slow step. And then finally she left. No meltdown, no final scream, just a woman who had gambled everything and lost the house. I never spoke to her again. No update, no "how are you," no final phone call. I didn't owe her closure. She'd already written her ending. I just stopped turning the pages. And when I locked the door that night, I didn't feel peace. I didn't feel victory. I felt nothing. And that's what she earned.